Welcome to Cosplay Stitch and Seam. I'm Pannon.
I'm Viewfire.
And I'm David.
Hooray! As always, if you guys want to reach out with your fun episode ideas, with your horror stories, with your happy stories, with whatever you're doing right now in quarantine, we would love to hear about that. You could email us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com or
you can go to our website at cosplaystitchandseam.com and fill out the Googly Google form, or
go to our Facebook page, and on our Facebook page, while you're there, join our Work in Progress Wednesdays. And hey, if you're not a big fan of Facebook, we have a Discord. We've got some news coming up about our Discord coming up that Pannon will talk about in just a second.
Woo-hoo.
But since you're on the internet, do all the awesome things. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Podchaser. We really appreciate those. Those help the algorithm. If you want to help out the show in other ways than just leaving a review, we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/cosplay stitch. And we also have a coffee, KOFI Cosplay Stitch.
hooray! Viewfire, why don't you tell us about the brush challenge coming up?
yeah, give me those videos. I've been having some really fun ones come in. I'm super excited to make this whole thing. It's gonna be dope. Send in a video where you are your beautiful, amazing self, and then another video where you are transformed into your cosplay with a brush transition in the middle. You can look up brush challenge, get some examples online, get those into me by April 30th, and I will add them to our video. That's it on that one. You go
That's
next.
coming up right up, so hurry.
Hurry scurry.
So speaking of our Discord, which you can get invitations to on our Facebook group, on May 1st coming up, we will be doing a Discord stream with all of our listeners. We'll be watching the movie The Gamers Dorkness Rising with all of our Cosplay Chronicles crew. If you've not heard of this movie, it's amazing. It's so funny. It's about D&D, both real life and what the campaigns are like, and lots of funny in between. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, Fox Beauty Cosmetics, that's Fox with 2 X's.com. Use the promo code Stitch and Seam, all spelled out, to get 10% off of your order on their all vegan, not animal tested products. Woo!
Awesome.
All right, Mercedes, why don't you tell us about what our topic is today?
Yeah, today we are going to demystify 3D printing. So 3D printing and cosplay, it's kind of new to cosplay. It's newer as in the past, at least 5 years. It's gotten really big in it, at least I would say. The machines have become more affordable, more in-depth and high definition and all that kinds of stuff. And I wanted to do an episode talking about the kind of work that goes into 3D printing and creating something from a 3D print for your cosplay. What is the craftsmanship involved in that? What is the work involved? What makes it easy? What makes it not? All that kind of stuff. So I've brought on to the show 2 guests. We have one who is newer at 3D printing and one who is more expert level at it. Let's go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves. William Priest Cosplay, you are our entry-level 3D printer. I can words. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello. I've been into 3D printing, at least on the research side of things, for about 6 months. Actual printing myself about 2 months. And I'm just starting to teach myself the actual crafting part of it. A lot of what I've done in the past has been more taking somebody else's design and printing it out, that kind of thing. But I'm starting to do editing on designs and such now, mainly using Tinkercad and a few other programs.
Awesome. And where can we find you online?
Facebook and Instagram are both under William Priest Cosplay.
Nice.
Awesome. And our more has been printing for a while person, Mstalkid, Mr. Matt.
Yeah, my name's Matt. I'm with Mstalkid Props. Sole proprietor, I guess. I'm the only one. But been doing this for, cosplaying on and off for 7+ years. I think it's closer to 10. Been 3D printing in some way, shape, or form for about 3 years on and off now. And really the last year has kind of been my 100% into it, kind of diving in more and biting off more than I can chew. So,
and where can we find you, Stalkid?
So, I believe my Facebook page is still up and Instagram as well, both just Mstalkid.
And that's Stall like Stallfos, right?
Yep. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a play on the Skull Kid from Majora's Mask is where that.
Oh, great. Okay, and William, tell us a little bit about how long you've been cosplaying.
I've been cosplaying now for about 15 years. Really got into it about 10 years ago when my local town at the time got their own convention. But it's mainly been either closet cosplay or adding small items to everyday clothing until about a year ago.
Oh, nice. What would you say your favorite build has been so far?
Probably torn between two. My first cosplay I ever did for a convention was Nick Fury,
Oh, nice.
the old school one.
Oh,
I actually told you
sweet.
guys a story a while back about that one.
Oh, yeah, that was you. Okay.
With the shield stickers.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, that one was cute.
But the other one is actually the one I'm currently finishing up. I'm waiting on one component for it, and it's actually an Imperial Officer.
Oh, nice.
The full Jodhpur pants, the boots, everything is going to be screen accurate. I'm actually just waiting on the belt right now.
Oh, that's really fun. Stalkid, how about you? What's your favorite so far?
So probably two of them. Well, actually, I've had several over the years, but I did a quick, couple of week turnaround Skull Kid from Majora's Mask that competed in a competition just for the, just for kicks and giggles, and then more recently,
twerked on stage in that, and it was great.
To the chicken dance, thank you very much.
It was beautiful.
And then more recently, my professional level cosplay is a screen accurate Din Djarin from the Mandalorian series, the first episode. So
that's awesome.
That was a lot of work and effort.
Well, let's get into the meat of the episode, 3D printing.
Yeah!
I want to start with William. How much work would you say goes into a 3D build for you?
Depending on the project, it can vary, but like, for example, right now I'm working on printing trophies for the bounty hunter I'm working on for the summer. And it's a lot more involved as far as the detail work. The printers, they pretty much run themselves. So once you start it, so the planning and getting the design as you want it before it starts is really the hard part.
Nice, for sure. Like, from start to finish, how long would you say a project takes generally if you don't include the print time?
If you don't include the print time, I just finished building a Green Lantern outfit for my son. I think the total crafting time on that was around 80 hours.
Oh, wow. So still
Nice.
a ton of time post printer.
Yeah, I don't use 3D printing for everything.
Mm-hmm.
We did your standard foam build for the chest piece and did a handcraft build on the lantern itself that you charge the ring from.
Wow.
Because you wanted the lantern too.
Definitely.
Nice.
Sorry, Stalkid, what would you say for you? What's been one of your longest builds?
Actually, it's the Ambium phase rifle from the Mandalorian, his long sniper rifle. It was a 3D print that I did. It took me a week and a half straight of printing on and off with troubleshooting to get it. And then it took me another 2.5 weeks to sand, smooth, paint, and finish it.
Wow. I think there's kind of like a misconception that just because you can print it, it's going to be ready to go straight off the printer. So what kind of learning curve would you say?
Actually, hang on.
Yeah.
Before we go into that, I actually want to have Mstalkid. There are some printers where it does come off ready, right?
Yes.
I think we were talking about this the other day, and I wanted you to kind of cover that, where there's like, there are some printers out there where it does do that. Most like general public printers don't do that, but there are places that you can go where that can happen. But you talk about it. You know more about it than I.
Yeah. So honestly, the build quality of whatever you're printing is a function of how fast you're printing it and the layer heights that you're doing it at. Most, they call them the direct FDM. It's the filament drive printers. That's the PLA, ABS. That's pretty much what most, 90% of people are going to be printing with. You have to dial in those settings to get rid of the print lines. we're starting to see now the influx of resin printers that are starting to become larger and more economical. And we're even starting to see some services in other countries where they have industrial scale size printers to where they can print an entire helmet in one go. And you can't even tell that there's print lines on it because they're microscopic.
Dang.
Yeah, it's like crazy cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with both of you, like, what were you using craft-wise before you found 3D printing, and kind of what got you into it? Let's start with you, Matt.
Yeah, so I started out with fiberglass, and
Oh, wow.
that was the initial medium that I started with. My first costume I ever built was a scratch-built Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett, completely fiberglass by hand, and
That's very ambitious.
it took me 4.5 months straight to build, and it was a combination of Pepakura and everything else as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of, naturally took a progression, messed around with EVA foam builds just because of the Pepakura. And then I started getting the leather, cardboard, sheet metal even a little bit. And then ultimately, kind of keep bouncing between fiberglass and ABS, plastic, and, 3D print now. So that's kind of how I came into it.
That's awesome. How about you, William?
Well, actually, I started out with, ironically, thread and cloth.
Oh,
Just
nice.
because a lot of the cosplays I was doing, as I mentioned, were either closet or started from clothing I already had, with modifications or additions. And then I picked up an embroidery machine, so I started doing custom patches for outfits, things like that.
Oh,
A
wow,
lot of
those so bad.
a lot of interchangeable cosplays, things like that, where I could do, like, for example, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I could do that. I could do Umbrella Corporation. I could do Stars, all with the same outfit. All I had to do was change out the patches and the badge.
Oh, nice. So would you say it was learning like the programs, say for making patches, that kind of drew you to programs for making 3D prints?
Actually, quite the opposite.
Really?
I still have the embroidery machines and such for patches. Mainly what I wanted to do with the 3D printing was be able to manufacture my props rather than having to search all over the internet and hope that they arrived.
Ah.
A couple of bad experiences with online shopping actually is what started me with my first printer.
Oh, that's great.
Because I lost almost $1,000
Oh,
in
no.
props that never showed up.
Oh,
And
no.
a friend of
That's
mine
a
told me
horror
about-
story. Dang.
A friend of mine told me about a 3D printer he just gotten on a good deal at Amazon. So I picked up one of those, and it's kind of been a wild ride since then.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's really kind of changed the game for you. No, like, waiting for things because you're just relying on yourself to build them.
Oh, you're still waiting because it is not it's not a fast process.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not, I didn't even think of that, but you're absolutely right. If you don't start that print soon enough, you are still not going to have a prop for the con.
One of my favorite things to do is I'll sit there and I actually use a 32 gigabyte chip for when I load my patterns. I'll load a week's worth of patterns on there, load it in, and then anytime I'm at home, I'll just start one of the prints up, go watch TV.
Oh, nice. Like that.
And then I'll sit there at each commercial break, I'll come over and check on it. One thing you will always do is you'll always be checking on it.
Nice. So I'm really curious from someone who's been into the hobby for like 6 months and one who's been into the hobby for several years. What was your starting printer, and kind of like what do you think someone should look for in one?
So I actually backed a Kickstarter, and it was a printer that came out. It was oh man, I can't remember the brand anymore. But it was just kind of an off-brand one. It was super cheap. It was like, I think it was $99 to get into it, and I just wanted something to get into the hobby because at the time I was starting to get into, I do a lot of cosplays and things like that with the 501st. And so screen accuracy is obviously a huge thing. And instead of having to pay for replica parts online, it was a lot easier to just try to 3D print them yourselves. So that's kind of why I got into the 3D printing in the first place. And so I bought the budget one. It worked well for a while. And then I actually had a filament bind, and so it ended up kind of tanking itself. And then my second printer I got is a Creality CR10S Pro. It is a filament printer, and I love the thing to death. The CR10Ss from Creality, a lot of people use them because they're workhorses. They print a lot. They have a lot of flexibility in settings. There's huge support groups from them.
Mm-hmm. So you'd say the learning curve isn't too bad because there's a lot of people out there that use that one and rely on it.
Yeah, so Creality, the CR10s, CR10s, things like that. Part of the reason a lot of people are drawn to them is, like you said, they have a huge support network online. There's Facebook groups, there's forums. It's a well-versed. There's tons of aftermarket parts for it. There's upgrades. There's firmware. There's if you have a question, someone's asked it about 100 times. So
wow, yeah,
it's a great place for people to go to, and it's just a great machine that puts out good quality prints, and it doesn't kill the bank. And
what should someone expect to pay for something like that?
So, I mean, that's the bad part is a 3D printer is a cost investment. Obviously you've got the upfront with it. Some printers can be $300. I've seen printers upwards of $9,000 and everywhere in between. It just depends on what you're printing, the quality, how big of a build bed you want. The printer I have right now, the CR10S Pro, it's large enough that I can print a Mandalorian helmet in one piece on it. There's a lot of printers that you have to split it into halves or quarters. So, so my advice to people that are looking to get into the hobby is one, research. I mean, if you think you've read enough, keep reading. Don't stop until you know exactly what you want and everything about it in and out. Second thing is look for a support group. If you look at a printer and you find one that looks like a good price, Google it, Facebook it, see if there's a group out there that has comments about it. Go talk to the people that are actually using it. And then the third thing would be is, just see what people are printing on it. See what kind of, if there's one printer out there and only one person's using it versus a printer that you see hundreds of people using and the build quality is consistent, there's probably a reason that it is that way. So, and understand what you're going to print too. Are you going to be printing helmets? Are you going to be printing smaller props? If you're looking for a lot of really detailed props, like, details for gauntlets, details for circuit boards, things like that, then maybe a resin printer would be good for you because resin printers capture that. Microscopic details get lost on a filament printer typically. And then, and then finally, what do you want to print with it? Typically PLA is kind of the filament that everyone starts with. It's a good workhorse, but there's, it's susceptible to heat, things like that. Are you going to print with ABS? Are you going to print with wood filament? Are you going to print with flexible filament? So some printers can do it, some printers can't. So there's a lot of information that you need to digest before you kind of jump in and make the leap on it.
With the different kind of materials out there, it's very, very important to research those and what your printer can use. Because if you're going to build something that needs to be durable, a resin printer might not be the way to go because those can be really fragile. But it also depends on what material you're printing the resin in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even know a wood-based thing was an option. That's really cool.
So it's really cool because it smells like word burning when it's printing, but it's a wood sawdust infused filament that prints out. And if you print it right, you can actually sand it and you can actually use wood stain on it like you would a piece of wood.
What?
It's super cool.
I've actually printed some rifle handles and things like that for a Jawa blaster one time just because I wanted to see how it worked. It was really cool.
Oh, that is really cool.
Dice cup roller from you.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, as I mentioned, I had an issue with getting things through the mail, and a friend told me about a good deal, so I picked up a Hender 5 Pro, which is actually a decent little printer, but it's very limited because of the bed size.
Nice.
And because of that, you have to chop up a lot of the projects, and that can be a pain because of having to put everything back together again.
Yeah.
Oy. But I mean, I think the workhorse. It still runs daily in this house. Either I'm using it or my wife
Sweet.
is. Honestly, the first thing I would tell someone if they're interested in looking into doing 3D printing, talk to your local library. A lot of them now have 3D printers and get you a lot of training with the basics on it. And you can print out a few simple things to see if you like how it works. And it gives you a better idea on the timetable it takes. Because like you can put in, like our local library has 3, but they're all little 3D printers, like a 6-inch bed, tiny little thing.
That's actually
But
brilliant.
what I think's funny is they call them Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Oh, cute. That's brilliant. I remember when the local library where I used to live first got a 3D printer and how that was just such a big deal. I don't think most people think about that anymore.
Yeah, the local library here in Louisville, they actually have what's called the Hive, which is they've got 3D printers, they've got a laser cutter, and an embroidery machine to help out local customers. And that's always where I recommend people go when they start looking into getting their own equipment, is to try with that, see how it works, see if it's something you want to do on a regular basis. Otherwise, you really should outsource it instead of investing the money, because as Mstalkid said, it is an investment. I mean, it can be as simple as just the one little printer like I got at first, but they're addictive.
So along with like going to a library, doing your research, you're figuring out which 3D printer you want to get. You've tested it out and all that. You've got your 3D printer now. So what else do you need to get started with that?
Well, once you've got your printer zeroed in, got it all balanced and everything, the bed's doing good, I always recommend people just go to like Thingiverse and stuff like that where you get free patterns and pick out something with a lot of weird angles and start printing those out to catch any flaws before you do a big project. Because the worst thing you could do is start some big project and your bed's like slightly off, so you're getting bad adhesion, and the entire print ends up getting messed up because this one angle isn't catching right. What I usually use is dragon eggs because their geometrics hit pretty much every angle you could think of, so you're going to see any flaw.
Nice.
Anytime I change filament, I print one out, so I've got a little basket.
My husband uses a little boat model.
Yeah, that actually is the Benchy is pretty much the tried and true. I don't like using the Benchy just because it only has maybe 8 angles it tests.
Okay.
Where the dragon egg that I found,
that's really cool,
has pretty much every angle you can think of. I'll
tell him about that, see if he can try it too.
Well, if you want, I can send you a link for the dragon egg.
Yes, please. Mstalkid, what about you?
Yeah, so first thing would be filament. Make sure that you have 1 or 2 rolls on you, because it seems like whenever you are getting ready to start a print and you're towards the end of the roll, you're always playing that game of, will it finish before it runs out? And I guarantee you'll lose that most of the time. So always make sure that you have more filament than you need. The other thing is some tools. Obviously your printer is going to come with them, but like a little spatula to, if you don't have a good bed that, like my bed has a magnetic plate on it that I can actually pull off and I can pop parts off of it, which makes it really nice. But some beds you actually kind of have to pry them off very gently. So I recommend that, some kind of bed cleaner, things like that, just make your life easier, and a crap ton of patience, because I will tell you that the first time you fire that puppy up and you print out, the basic print that comes with it, it's going to print amazing. It's going to print gorgeous. And then you're going to load up your first custom file and it's not going to look like what came out of the box the first time. And so, recommendation is the first time you go to set that thing up, like William was saying, print something custom, but also watch a ton of videos about how to level your beds. Bed leveling is 99% of the problem that your prints are going to come off. And look up troubleshooting guides, just like I was saying before, research. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've texted people and been, literally just the yeet emoji, and they're like, what is going on? And I'm like, printer's going out the window. And they're like, Matt, stop, like walk away. And, but I've threatened to throw the thing out the window. I've threatened to set it on fire because I'll print something gorgeous and then I'll reprint something again right afterwards, and it's completely different. So it's a process that, you kind of have to go through every time. But like I said, having tools on hand and just kind of basic cleaning supplies, you want to make sure your bed's clean.
I always think
things like
I always
that.
think of 3D printers as having, like, listening to my friends who have them and use them. I always think of them as having personalities, just like sewing machines do.
I've been tempted to put googly eyes and angry eyebrows on mine, but I wouldn't be able to take it seriously.
I have a dunce cap. I've got 2 dunce caps.
I might need to borrow it next time.
I'll give you one.
So you guys have talked about patterns when building or these things. Where do you find them? Is there an etiquette when using? Because I've seen I know what was it? Bill Duran released some really cool foam stamping patterns that you could 3D print. And you just pay for the file, but you can print it as much as you want. Is that a common etiquette?
I guess I'll go first. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's kind of like the free use thing that kind of comes up. It depends on the creator. I've gotten files where they'll create it, they won't put their name on it, they don't care if people print it, they don't care if people produce it and sell it. I also have files that someone has created that I paid for and they have the name on it, and I've been explicitly told that basically it's a breach of my contract through purchasing the files that I cannot give it or sell it or reproduce it for anyone else besides myself.
Wow.
So it just kind of depends on the creator, but most of the time, if it's on Thingiverse or any of the free depositories online, it's free use. You can kind of go for it. Typically, if I use something and I'm going to go to a competition, I will make sure to credit whoever I got the files from as a creator. Obviously I'm the builder, but they're the creator.
Yeah, it's like using a pattern for a dress or an outfit, and you're like, yeah, I bought the pattern, I used it to build this thing, but I'm not the creator of the pattern. And
I think that's interesting, because with a commercial pattern, you wouldn't always mention that in, say, a photo shoot. If you're taking a photo of that costume, you wouldn't be pattern by Simplicity number 245. But with a lot of cosplay, I see prop patterning rendered by and have it listed. So it's an interesting standard with that.
I think
what
it's
do you
because
think?
it's more of an artistic thing. Sorry, I really like this subject.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think it's because it's more artistic, and it's the 3D model is somebody's piece of art, and
Right.
you're using it, you're expanding upon it, but it's the base that you started with. So it's it's not exactly the same as a dress pattern, but it has a lot of overlapping stuff.
Gotcha.
It's its own weird thing, and I love it.
William, what's been your experience?
As was mentioned, on Thingiverse and things like that, it's pretty much, well, we're giving these away for free for you to use. Some people will put a request that you don't turn around and sell it. Most of the time, you're not really going to want to sell it, because most of the Thingiverse things are, hey, that's useful, but it's not really cosplay quality on a lot of it, because they are giving away free. Now, one site I did want to mention, because it's where I get a lot of my patterns from, it's called Hex 3D. I actually had spoken to VFire about it, and I actually spoke to the gentleman who runs it, Jeff, and got a few tidbits from him I thought might come in handy for this podcast. I had asked him about how long it takes him to do things, how many patterns he's done, stuff like that. And he said, to put it simply, it could be from an hour to 50 hours to make a design.
Wow.
Because of the complexity.
Wow.
He said the biggest one he's done was 80.
Wow.
And that was just the design for a life-size droideka from Star Wars.
Dang.
And he works fast.
Oh yeah, incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because he's done
and
this for a long
I've actually
time.
got a YouTube link I'm going to send you guys that actually has a copy of the droideka completed by one of his clients.
Wow.
Now, the reason I like him is his basic concept is, okay, you're paying for my Patreon. Here's the file. Here's some starter files. And here's this month's files.
Nice.
First 3 months, that's what you get. Each month, you get the monthly files. At the third month, you get access to his entire archive.
Whoa.
And you're looking at 10 to 20 models a month over
Jeez.
4.5 years. If my math's doing right, that's over 1,000 files at least.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's including like 12 printable suits, over 60 helmets, hundreds of other stuff, busts, figures. I mean, he even has stuff that hasn't even hit theaters yet.
Wow.
One of my personal new favorites he's got. Have you guys seen the new promo for the Ghostbusters movie? They have a mini Stay Puft in the movie.
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
He already has the pattern made.
Jeez. Mini Stay Puffs. That's great.
Impressive.
So with patterning, have you done any yourself, William, or have you mostly done from like these different Patreons and Thingiverse and Hex 3Ds?
Mostly I've done somebody else's design. I'm actually tinkering with designs now. Actually working on my first actual modification program right now. One of the trophies I'm working on for my bounty hunter is actually going to be a damaged lightsaber.
I was going to say, so as someone who's just getting into the patterning aspect, what kind of programs, what tutorials and things are you looking at?
Honestly, the first thing I went into was Tinkercad, just because it was recommended to me, because they have a very simple, like hold your hand style walkthrough, getting you your basics, getting you general understanding.
It's super nice. I use it with my younger kids that I teach.
Nice.
And it actually gets you a very good understanding of the basic process. And then I do a lot of YouTube videoing because I am still in the learning stage, and I'm just building it from there. I mean, my eventual goal is to start crafting my own stuff, but right now I'm just at the point of modifying.
I think that's absolutely great, because going back to like the pattern, the dress pattern example, it's like, in order to learn how to like create your own models and create the vision that you want for stuff, is that you got to start tinkering with existing patterns that are out there and playing with those, modifying them, and that's how you learn.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I really love that. Mstalkid, what about you?
Yeah, so similarly to what William was saying, I mean, I started out primarily using online resources, downloading models, things like that. And then as I got more comfortable, I use AutoCAD a lot in my daily job. And so I was very comfortable with 3D modeling software. And so I actually ended up getting a hobby, personal use license when they were still available for SolidWorks. And I ended up teaching myself, quite a bit of SolidWorks. And so I've modeled in there. I also use Blender and a couple other like Mesh Mixer and things like that to kind of finalize models. And, I don't do anything as complicated as like Hex 3D just because, I mean, like organic shapes and things like that, make my head hurt. But I can get a basic, kind of shape and print it out. And actually, a lot of times what I'll end up doing is I'll print out a shape, that's close. And then I'll use Bondo or some kind of epoxy sculpt or something like that on top of it. And I will sculpt out the details onto it and finalize it by hand that way. Eventually, my goal, like William said, is hopefully I can, make my own models start to finish and, have them be like costume pieces and things like that. So
nice. That's really cool.
And on that topic of getting like from start to finish, so like while we've been talking here, I've been fiddling with a 3D model that I printed for one of my students. And it's an already printed model. I got the pattern online, and I had to add a bunch of supports to it, and it came out, and it's great. but like the bottom of it is just garbage. So how do I clean up this print for this kid so I don't hand him something that's dangerous for his hands because it's all pokey and stuff?
Like, are you talking like the bottom layer is all kind of pokey and stuff?
Oh my gosh, it's gross. Yes, and like, so it's like not only that, but like that would be making it safe. But if I really wanted, I'm not going to do this for the kid because I don't have the time for that. But if I really wanted to make this like a pristine, it's a cart from Valheim. But if I wanted to make it like a pristine, super amazing, like looking piece for this kid, what would I do? From getting rid of the garbage part underneath to just like making this look popping from the game.
Yeah, so a lot of the first layer, if you have a first layer tearing like that, where it almost looks like it started tearing when you were pulling it off the bed, typically that means that, either you got the filament too hot or there was an adhesion where, because you want it to be able to pop off the bed, but if your nozzle's too close, you can actually fuse the filament to the bed and you can actually tear your bed up. And so, typically that would be the first thing is look at it. And is it something that you can fix? Probably. Do you want to repaint it? And it might be just as easy to do it that way. But if not, typically there's kind of two ways that I finish things. And the first is, a lot of sandpaper and elbow grease. Typically, I hate saying it, but a rule of thumb is, at least if it takes 30 hours to print a helmet, you might put 30 hours worth of finishing work into it till it's finished.
Whoa.
And that just depends on the print lines and all that kind of stuff, because what a lot of people will figure out very quickly is you'll sand that thing and it'll be baby smooth and you're like, this is amazing. And then you'll put your first layer of primer down and the print lines show up. So, and it's like a, oh crap moment. So there's a lot of finishing that goes into it. Like I said, I use a lot of sandpaper. I have also done chemical baths where you can use like acetone vapor and things like that with certain filaments to literally melt the surface of it with vapor and it'll smooth things out. For small models, it might not be a bad idea to do that kind of thing. You could put a bunch of them in kind of a container with some acetone on a piece of cloth and like a fan, and it kind of circulates it around. The acetone literally surface melts it and makes it smooth. And then the other one that's kind of started gaining traction recently in a lot of different groups is using a cabinet scraper. So like a scraper that you use on wood, and you literally start scraping the high points down off of your prints.
I might destroy this if I did that.
Yeah, and then you...
Again, this fits in my hand. It's tiny.
Right.
But for something bigger, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and most of my stuff is with props, but something small like that, an X-Acto knife, like a little tiny piece of sandpaper, fine grit sandpaper on a stick, or like a vapor bath would probably be the best way. It just... the way you finish it can vary so hardcore, and that's just getting it ready for paint, and then paint's a whole nother animal. So,
okay, I have a question with acetone because I have only seen it in beauty parlors because it's what you use to take nail polish off, like especially gel nails.
That's the weak stuff.
Yeah, I know. But I'm wondering, like, where
do you take you into the workshop here and show you all the toxic stuff and be like,
I know. That's actually what I'm using to smooth out my my gun for Prompto. Ooh. But and it works really well. But I'm curious, like, for beginners and whatnot, where would they go to buy a product like that?
Home Depot or Lowe's. They come in like 2-gallon pails.
Wow, that's so much.
And it's the 100% strength stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty gnarly. So just be careful with it. But a little bit, I've had the same can for like 2 years, and a little bit goes a long way with stuff like that. So,
oh wow,
gotcha.
And plus, if your nail polish isn't coming off, it'll take that off too.
That is true.
One thing
that is
I'd
true.
like to chime in on real quick on this. Do not forget your PPE. Always have your gloves.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Have your goggles.
Agreed.
This stuff is strong. We're talking, it can take skin off if you leave it on too long.
Oof.
It's
oh, jeez.
powerful.
Oh, geez.
No ouchies.
Yeah, when my brother was first teaching me about 3D printing, he had me use, it's like a slurry that they put acetone in a bottle, shake it up with like all his leftover bits of filament, and it's like a sludge that's half plastic, half acetone, so it kind of like both fills in and melts at the same time.
ABS paste.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So you can do that with ABS. You can't do that with PLA. PLA doesn't have the same chemical properties, even though it's just a plastic. But ABS paste, you can do it. A lot of vacuform props and things like that are made out of ABS. And so what you do, like you said, is you make that slurry out of the acetone and it basically welds it together. And when you're done, the joint's actually stronger than the material around it.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool. I like it a lot. So we kind of scratched the surface on finishing. I'm curious, like each of you, what your process is once you pull something off the print plate. How do you go about doing all the smoothing? We talked about Bondo. We talked about acetone. Like, what's your favorite, and like what's the very last thing you finish with? Is it like paint? Is it a glaze? Is it a clear crystal coat? I know I just asked like a million questions, so I'm going to start with William, and then we'll hop over to Matt.
Well, that's really going to depend on what project you're working on, because if you're working on a armor prop or something like that, it's most likely going to be paint and clear coat, things like that. Where if you're working on prop, for, let's say you're doing a character from one of the Batman cartoons, for example, then whatever their prop is, you might not want to have paint on that. It might be stain. It might be coming straight off the printer. You're just sanding it, smoothing it, and then sealing it. So it's just a clear, either a clear gloss or clear matte seal. It's all going to depend on the project. So there's not really a cut and dry answer for, okay, this is what you do to finish. I've even had parts where I literally took it off the printer, ran some fine sandpaper to get rid of any little bits, and it was done.
Gotcha. That's a really good point. And I know it's something like we say a lot in our podcast is like things totally depend on the project. It depends on what you want to go for. It depends on what you want it to look like, how much you want it to resemble something like realistic or cartoony but yeah, that's a really good point. How about you, Stalkid?
So straight off the printer, normally it's stare at it for a couple of hours and contemplate my existence, because I realize just how much sanding is going to have to happen. And then it's sand, cry, sand, repeat until it's smooth. No, but seriously, like William's saying, it depends on the prop. I mean, there's some props that spend days just sanding it. I won't have fingerprints left after the end of it. Like, and it's just, and then there's other props where, you hit it with a little bit and then you slap some filler on it and you're done. Typically though, like I said, I'll start with kind of like 80 and 100 grit, and I'll go all the way up to, 400 grit, 500 grit, 600 grit, something like that. And I'll use Bondo, filler putty, epoxy sculpt, everything else to try to get rid of print lines, just because, most of the time when I'm making something, my goal is that you, even up close, you can't tell that it's a 3D print. That's my whole goal. And then, paint, obviously you want to use a good base coat, and a primer. And then, like he was saying, it just depends on what you're going for. Are you using metallics? Are you using matte? Are you going for cell shading? Are you going for, are you trying to make it look like steel? Are you trying to make it look like leather, wood, and
right.
I've used everything from, acrylics, airbrushing, lacquers, enamels, wood stains. I've even used floor wax to seal things. And just because there's some metallic paints that don't play well with enamel or acrylic sealers, and so you have to kind of seal them first. My Mandalorian helmet, I had to be very, very careful with it because the paint I was using on that is basically $20 to $30 an ounce.
Oh wow!
And so the paint alone on my Mandalorian helmet was about $100 worth of paint. And
It's the
so,
same as what they used in the show, isn't it?
yeah, it's the aluminum luster that they used in the show. And so I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to get any orange peeling and things like that. So I made so I sealed it very, very well. But, it just, and then, you can use a clear matte, et cetera, like you said, for the effects that you're going for. But it's,
So I'm curious, with the types of plastic and resin and stuff that you're using for these printers, are there any paints you should avoid that are not going to play well, that are not going to stick to the surface?
I mean, most of the time, you're going to use some kind of acrylic-based primer. I mean, most of us use like a automotive filler primer that comes in a can, and it just helps hide the 3D print lines. And there really hasn't been an adverse reaction that we know of. Kind of the typical things that happen is the same thing that happens whenever you're painting something else. You'll get air bubbles, you'll get orange peel, you'll get, that kind of stuff. The only thing is, like I said, that you have to be careful when you're finishing, because if you sand it, plastic can get like little fuzzies. And so you can actually get like fuzzy print lines that kind of show through. So what I've actually started doing, and, again, like mentioned before, PPE, wear it, please. But, use acetone after you sand it to smooth down the surface of the print, and it'll take away some of that, and then I prime it. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really encountered anything that eats into the plastic or anything like that, or doesn't play well.
When in doubt, test it out.
Yeah.
Yep. Always keep your scraps.
With him saying about the automotive filler and stuff, one thing I did a Iron Man mask for a friend, and we actually found a can of that was actually filler and primer in one. But I'm glad we used a scrap and tested it. It is so dense. You had to do light coat, let it dry, light coat, let it dry. Because on the test piece, we just sprayed it on there like you would normally do. And it was so dense, it was creating chunks.
Oh my gosh.
And that was after shaking it for like 10 minutes.
No.
Ugh.
Oh, jeez.
Holy moly.
But yeah, one thing, as he said already, patience is the key with 3D printing. You have to be patient for the machine and patient for the finish work. You can't rush it.
I love it.
I like that. That's good advice all around. So to finish, like, you guys have been absolutely wonderful and very knowledgeable. I am curious because, like, we ask this of many of our guests. What is your dream build? What would be like I don't know, light your socks on fire, get you really excited about?
Light your socks on fire. That's amazing.
Let's start with William.
Okay, I've actually started planning out this one, but we're talking probably 10 years down the line. Full articulated battle suit from the original Gundam novels.
Oh
yes!
Estimated height 16 feet.
Oh,
Like
jeez! Holy crap, that's huge.
I love this ambitious idea.
Gosh.
It sounds
amazing. Then I will be actually running from Gundams at conventions and not just in my dreams.
But like I said, that's probably at least 10 years down the road before you can even start it. Just because I right now don't have the knowledge for it.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that would be really cool.
If I'm going to do something that massive, that impressive, I'm going to be doing the lights. I'm going to be doing every prop that is built into it all, actually as they were.
Yes.
So it would take a long time to build too.
Nice. How about you, Mstalkid?
So, it's kind of funny because I actually don't. There's not like a 3D print only build that just would blow me away. Because for me, 3D printing is more of like I utilize it for parts of the costume that I need, anyways. But at one point in my career, like I really wanted to do Tyrael from Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I wanted to do that full out. And just, I don't know, it just kind of depends on what I'm going for. I don't know. I'm kind of in between things right now. It took me 18 months to build my Mandalorian kit. And so I'm kind of like in that like euphoria from that, and so like no builds right now are like, oh yeah, like standing out to me.
You're still basking in the glory of your
it's more like after you eat too much at a buffet and you're just kind of like sitting in your front room and you're like, why did I do this to myself? But it was amazing.
Oh man. So we like to wrap up every episode with a horror story. Do you both, either of you, have one that you'd like to share?
I mentioned earlier about having problems with shipping on cosplay props.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I don't know even how to pronounce the towns they were supposed to come from, but be careful where you are getting your props sent in from. And I'm not saying every company out there does this, but I had over $1,000 in props over the space of 6 months that none of it showed up. No, the tracking numbers would work until it got to ready to leave China, and then they go poof.
Oh my gosh.
So basically,
that
it seemed like what they were
devastating.
doing is basically taking a package, sticking a tracking number, sending it to customs, and then just having somebody to customs send it back or something. Because you would follow it all the way to customs, and then it would just go to limbo.
Research your companies too, guys.
Oh man.
So be very careful.
That's disappointing.
Harsh lesson, but at least it led to a good place.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Look for the good.
Man, cosplay horror stories. I feel like I've been doing this so long. There's a lot of them, but probably my most horror stories is, Mercedes convincing me to do the freaking twerk chicken dance on stage at a convention. But
it was brilliant.
No, it seems like every time you're in the moment, and probably most of my horror stories deal with actually competing in costume, because most of the time, if you're just wearing a costume and something happens, it's no big deal. But being on stage and realizing that something came loose or something broke or something like that, and of course you're the only one that knows what the crap is going on with your kit. But I on stage one time, and like I just could feel that part of the costume was like breaking on me, and it was just like trying to maintain that composure of like everything is fine, I swear. And then once you're off stage, you're like, where's the duct tape?
Man. Yeah.
But probably, that was probably my biggest one, is just having parts of the costume break when you don't want them to.
And that is why I incorporate a repair kit into every costume.
There you go.
Most of what I do is either paramilitary or uniform based, so it's easy to add an extra pouch here or there.
Smart.
I did the hunk armor a while back. One of the shotgun shells was actually a container that had the UV glue in it.
Nice. Good. One more time, guys. Where can we find you online, William?
Facebook and Instagram are both up. William Priest Cosplay. Keep it pretty simple.
All right. And Mstalkid?
Facebook and Instagram as well. I think Facebook is Mstalkid Props, and Instagram is probably just Mstalkid.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much.
I would like to go ahead and give a shout out to someone that he and I both mentioned, Jeff at Hex 3D. You can find him on Patreon. It is well worth the investment, and it's one of the best sites I've seen as far as 3D patterns go.
Yeah, I've been drooling over
You've been perusing right now. I see.
And Mercedes, if you want something for Chris to go down a rabbit hole, check out Michael Bradley. He does the same thing that Joff does at Hex 3D, but for droids.
Sweet.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm actually a member of his Droid Builders group.
Nice. Well, if you listeners at home would like to send us your horror stories, your fun stories, your build stories, you can send those to us at cosplaystitchandseam@gmail.com,
or you can go to the website, fill out the googly Google form at cosplaystitchandseam.com, or
go to our Facebook page, send us your messages there. And while you're there, join our Work in Progress Wednesdays. But don't worry, if you're not a big fan of Facebook, we will send a link to Facebook and our Twitter every now and again to join our Discord, where we will be doing a live stream May 1st, where we just hang out, watch a movie. It'll be great. It'll be a lot of fun. And then while you're on the internet, if you want to support the show, there's so many different ways to do it. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcast, Audible, Podchaser, wherever they let you, and we will give you a shout out on the show, just like XAngel1138, my favorite cosplay podcast. I'll skim through it. First, they said they know the hosts, they've met us, and it's hard not to love the labor of love. Second, I would probably. Yeah. Actually rate this 4.5 stars out of versus 5 because of the audio. Some early episodes and convention episodes have audio problems. I don't consider these a deal breaker because of the context and content of these episodes, as in con episodes where you can normally hear con background noises. I love the humble approach to learning and growth in cosplay the show promotes. V-Fire and Panon are never condescending toward their guests and audience, sarcasm excluded, and often share their own stumbles in a lighthearted and humorous manner. This part made me tear up. It has been great to listen to David coming on as a co-host, as he embodies the person just getting into cosplay, proving that anyone can cosplay. It's not just limited to the host. Some episodes feature audience input or specialized guest. This podcast covers a myriad of topics and has built a wholesome community of cosplayers who want to help others out. All are asked to share horrors or happy stories of cosplay. I keep trying other podcasts for cosplay, and I just keep coming back to this one. I've learned and enjoyed so much of this. I am very grateful for all the tips and tricks since this started. P.S. I'm so glad the puns are back.
Yay, thank you so much for that awesome review. That was a very cool review.
That's an amazing one. Thank you.
It was a great review. So if you want to be awesome like X-Angel and get a shout out on the show, we would greatly appreciate that. Again, you can just leave those on wherever they let you and let us know where you left them if I haven't already gotten to you. If you want to support the show in different ways, we do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/cosplay stitch. Words. Sorry, David. For $3 a month, we will give you a shout out on the show. For $5 a month, we will give you access to our live stream once a month D&D game. And if you just want to hear the audio, we don't keep it behind a paywall. We just make it so that way everybody can contribute. Some of the awesome people that we want to thank is Queer Eye Sci-Fi, Hal, Kaz, Hot, Riku, Rena, Mira, Jazzy, Kofed, Jaguar, Quinn, Glorious Shoe, Sudi, Stacy Pitt, Shock H, and Silver Deeds. Woo!
Yay!
And again, if Patreon's not your thing, we have a coffee, KOFI, Cosplay Stitch.
Nice. One more time, Mercedes, how soon are those entries due?
They're due by April 30th. That's coming up fast. Get them in for that.
Got a couple more episodes before those are due. Yeah. Thanks as always to Macy Roberts for the use of her theme song and David Jeffress for his amazing editing. And I'm sorry this episode's going to be a little bit tricky.
That's going to be good.
Why don't you tell us about your podcast? There's 3 now to hear about.
There are so many. We just did an episode on The Last Voice, and Gabriel Blythe is in trouble. But only you can find out what's going to happen if you go listen to The Last Voice. Dungeons and Chill, the latest Curse of Strahd episode is up and ready to go. Please go check that out if you enjoy Curse of Strahd, if you enjoyed my DMing for the Cosplay Chronicles that we do, and if you enjoy comic books and kind of the philosophical impact that they have, go check out Comic Trades Monthly.
Woo-hoo. So my brother 3D printed my face to send to me. He was very excited to tell me that I'm getting ahead of myself. Bye, everybody. Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Or you can go to the website and fill out the googly Google form. cosplaystationteam.com. I forgot that part. Gosh dang it, I
Do you need a sorry, David?
Sorry, David, let me do that again.
Okay.
Or you can go out the
Go out the website.
I got this. I'm a professional. I'm not. Okay.
Hooray. Let's see. And now that's my sorry, David.